नमस्कार स्टूडेंट्स, हमेशा खुश रहो बिटिया। दिस इज डॉक्टर सुमन आहूजा, असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर काय चिकित्सा डिपार्टमेंट, फैकल्टी ऑफ आयुर्वेदिक साइंस, ज्योति विद्यापीठ, विमेंस यूनिवर्सिटी. Today I am going to deliver lecture on the management of COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. In the previous part, I told you about the definitions, its etiology, pathogenesis, clinical features, non-specific signs, and the investigations of the COPD. Today, we will discuss about the management of the disease. So let me share a few slides for you. So management of the COPD. So its management focuses on improving breathlessness, reducing the frequency and severity of exacerbations, and improving health status and its prognosis. So aim of the management of COPD is basically to give the improvement in the breathlessness and to reduce the frequency and the severity of the exacerbation, that is the episodes of the increased symptoms, and improving the health status and its prognosis. Now, first important factors is reduces the exposure to noxious particles and gases, because exposure to noxious particles and gases are the important factors for the occurrence of COPD. So, sustained smoking cessation in mild to moderate COPD is accompanied by a reduced decline in FEV1 compared to persistent smokers. So, sustained smoking cessation is essential, and cessation remains the only strategy that impacts favorably on the natural history of the COPD. Complete cessation is accompanied by an involvement in the lung function, improvement in the lung function, and deceleration in the rate of FEV1 decline. In regions where the indoor burning of biomass fuels is important, the introduction of non-smoking cooking devices or alternative fuels should be encouraged. Now, what is the role of bronchodilator? Bronchodilator are the medications which dilate the bronchi, so helps in the breathlessness symptoms. So bronchodilator therapy is central to the management of the breathlessness. The inhaled route is preferred, and a number of different agents delivered by a variety of devices are available. Choice should be informed by patient preference and inhaler assessment. Short-acting beta-2 agonist bronchodilators such as salbutamol or terbutaline may be used for patients with mild disease, but long-acting bronchodilators are usually more appropriate for those with moderate to severe disease. Significant improvement in breathlessness may be reported despite minimal changes in FEV1, probably reflecting improvements in the lung emptying that reduce dynamic hyperinflation and ease the work of breathing. So it doesn't matter whether there are the changes in the FEV1, but if there is improvement in the breathlessness symptoms, this shows that the lung emptying that reduced dynamic improvement in the lung emptying that reduced dynamic hyperinflation and ease the work of breathing. Oral bronchodilator therapy, such as theophylline preparations, may be contemplated in patients who cannot use inhaled devices efficiently, but their use may be limited by side effects, unpredictable metabolism, and the drug reactions. Some of the medications that are combined form, that is combined inhaled glucocorticoid and bronchodilators. The fixed combination of an inhaled glucocorticoid and long acting beta 2 agonist, that is budesonide and formoterol. This is the combination of the inhaled glucocorticoid and long acting beta 2 agonist. Improves lung function, reduces the frequency and severity of exacerbations, and improves quality of life. These advantages may be accompanied by an increased risk of pneumonia, particularly in the elderly. So, long-acting beta agonists, that is an inhaled glucocorticoid combinations, are frequently given with a long-acting muscarinic antagonist, that is LAMA. So LAMAs should be used with caution in patients with significant heart disease or a history of urinary retention. Now, next management part of the medication is oral glucocorticoids. These are useful during exacerbations, but maintenance therapy contributes to osteoporosis and impaired skeletal muscle function. So that these medications should be avoided. Next important part is pulmonary rehabilitation. So exercise should be encouraged at all stages and patients reassured that breathlessness while distressing is not dangerous. Multidisciplinary programs that incorporate physical training, disease education, and nutritional counseling reduces symptoms, improve health status, and enhance confidence of the patients. So these kind of programs must be encouraged among the patients. So most programs include 2 to 3 sessions per week, last between 6 and 12 weeks, and are accompanied by demonstrable and sustained improvement in exercise tolerance and health status. Now, next important part is oxygen therapy. So, long-term domiciliary oxygen therapy improves survival in selected patients with COPD complicated by severe hypoxemia, that is arterial O2 level is less than 55 mmHg. So it is most conveniently provided by an oxygen concentrator, and patients should be instructed to use oxygen for a minimum of 15 hours per day. Greater benefits are seen in those who use it for more than 20 hours per day. The aim of therapy is to increase the PaO2 to at least 8 kPa, that is 60 mm of Hg, or saturation of oxygen at least 90%. Ambulatory oxygen therapy should be considered in patients who desaturate on exercise and show objective improvement in exercise capacity and or dyspnea with oxygen. Now, oxygen flow rates should be adjusted to maintain the oxygen saturation above 90%. Now, the prescription of long-term oxygen therapy in COPD. So, arterial blood gases are measured in clinically stable patients on optimal medical therapy on at least 2 occasions 3 weeks apart. So, if oxygen level in blood is less than 55 mm of Hg, irrespective of CO2 level, and FEV1 is less than 1.5 liter, and if oxygen saturation is between 55 to 60 mm of Hg plus pulmonary hypertension, peripheral edema, or nocturnal hypoxemia. The patient has stopped smoking. Use at least 15 hours per day at 2 to 4 liter per minute to achieve the oxygen level up to 60 mm of Hg without unacceptable rise in CO2. So these are the conditions for that medical therapy should be started, should be continued for the patients of COPD. Now, what is a surgical intervention? As bullous form in the patients of COPD, so bullectomy may be considered when large bullous compress surrounding normal lung tissue and which reduces the gas transfer. So, patients with predominantly upper lobe emphysema, preserved gas transfer, and no evidence of pulmonary hypertension may benefit from lung volume reduction surgery, that is LVRS, in which peripheral emphysematous lung tissue is resected and the aim of reducing hyperinflation and decreasing the work of breathing. Both bullectomy and LVRS can be performed thoracoscopically and minimizing morbidity. Lung transplantation may benefit carefully selected patient with advanced diseases. Now, important part is palliative care. It is also one of the important parts of the management. Addressing end of life needs is an important yet often ignored aspect of care in advanced disease. Morphine preparations may be used for the palliation of breathlessness in advanced cases, and benzodiazepines in low dose may reduce anxiety. Decisions regarding resuscitation should be addressed in advance of critical illness. Now, what is the prognosis of this disease? So, prognosis of COPD has a variable natural history but is usually progressive. The prognosis is inversely related to age. The age is more, prognosis is poor, and the directly related to post bronchodilator FEV1. Additional poor prognostic indicators include weight loss and pulmonary hypertension. So these are the poor prognostic indicators. So a score, composite score has been made which comprise of it's like BODE board. So B comprised of B, that is body mass index, is O is airflow obstruction, and D is measurement of dyspnea, and exercise capacity is for E. So this composite score may assist in predicting death from respiratory and other causes. Respiratory failure, cardiac disease, and lung cancer represent common modes of death. Now, what is the this composition of the BODE? First is the FEV1, as we did this is at the directly proportional to the prognosis. So FEV1 grade is 0 if a finding is more than and equal to 65, and grade is 1 if it is between 50 to 64, grade is 2 is if it is between 36 to 49, and grade is 3 if it is less than 35. So less is the FEV1 and the prognosis is poor. So distance walked in 6 minutes, that is in meter. Grade 0, if patient can walk more than or equal to 350 meters. Grade 1, if distance is 250 to 13 between 349, and if grade 2, if distance is between 150 to 249, and the grade 3 if it is less than or equal to 149. So the less patient walk in less time shows the poor prognosis. Now MRC dyspnea scale, as we studied earlier, grade 1 if finding is 0 to 1, grade 1 if finding is 2, grade 2 if finding is 3, and the grade 3 if finding is grade 4 in MRC dyspnea scale. Now B, that is body mass index. Grade is 0 if it is more than 21, grade is 1 if it is less than or equal to 21. If we calculate the scores of the patients, the patient with board score of 0 to 2 has a mortality rate of around 10% at 52 months, whereas a patient with board score of 7 to 10 has a mortality rate of around 80% at 52 months. So this was all about management part of the COPD, which was a very important disease nowadays. So if it is judicially treated, and if it is as it is a progressive disease, so this should be treated very patiently, and care of the old age patient, the palliative care, it can be treated effectively. So this was all about the management of the COPD. I hope you all will be benefited with this session, and this session was powered by Digital Version 2.0, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. If you have any doubt, any query, you please do write in the comment box, and that will be resolved. Thanks for watching this video.